Welcome to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I am Tina.
And I am Anne. Hey, Tina, I love getting us together because it is so healing and so beneficial to talk. There is nothing right now that does not feel heavy. And for real, life just feels heavy right now. And it is just so good to find respite wherever you can. And here at Real Talk, we hope you can find some respite for the short term anyway, that you're with us. And I know that we do.
Yes, we do. And I feel like it's the end of the year. And I think a lot of us moms, parents, guardians are feeling the same way, especially those of us who have multiple kids and all of these responsibilities and fear of
Mhm.
missing out. That's me. I have that FOMO. And so you want to be everywhere and do all the things. And then I think that eats into any self-care opportunities. And then here we are in that vicious cycle. And we're going to be entering summer where we're going to have our kids here all the time. I'm not so sure I'm ready for that either.
Right.
I love them, but I
Yes.
also love that they go to school for several
Yeah.
hours a day.
Yeah. Same here. I need that break myself every single day, just about, because things are very stressful these days. But anyway, what I do know is that it is all worth it. There is no amount of running from that is beneficial because it actually takes more energy to go in the wrong direction than it does in the direction that we need to. It always takes more energy to run away.
I don't know if I've ever thought of it that way. Sometimes I feel like if I want to run, that feels like the safest, easiest way. But now you've got me thinking.
Well, you know what I've learned in life is that the problem, whether you're running or not, is always going to be there and it's going to be waiting for you. So you might as well just go through from the very
That's so
beginning.
true. Yeah, that's so true. By nature, I'm a runner. I don't know if it's my personality. I don't know exactly what makes that kick in for me, but that's what I want to do. Now, I fight it most of the time. I don't run away because I know as an adult that you can't, but it is kind of my first instinct to want to do that, to just want to get away. And I don't know, maybe as I think about it, maybe it's more to be able to process what's going on. Maybe it's not
Okay.
to run from what the actual problem is, but we live in such a fast-paced world that it seems
We
like
do.
processing it's it's hard to do. And I
Hmm.
I don't know why that is. I had a 3-hour counseling session recently,
Hmm.
and just the other day, in fact, and it was really good to just kind of talk about some of the things I've been trying to unravel about myself and have a better understanding of, and maybe even a direction to move forward in certain areas. But yeah, I gotta tell you, sometimes I just need that time and space to be able to process. And I think I've been missing that because there's just so much
Hmm.
life happening, which is beautiful. And I'm glad it
Hmm.
goes on. But making time to actually stop and think is something I need to make the time for.
Yeah, there is a quote I heard from Jelly Roll, who I really like. I
Mhm.
mean, I just love Jelly Roll. And during one of his
It's a funny
acceptance,
name to me, but I do
it
love his
is,
music.
yeah, yeah. There, let me see. During one of his acceptance speeches when he won New Artist of the Year at 39 years old, he said, I don't know where you're at in life or what you're going through, but I want to tell you to keep going, baby. I want to tell you success is on the other side of it. I want to tell you it's going to be okay. I want to tell you that the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror for a reason, because what's in front of you is so much more important than what's behind you. Isn't that beautiful? As soon as he said it, I wrote it down.
Yes, I think that is absolutely beautiful too. It's something that you have said before, in other words, here on Real Talk with Tina and Ann. So I love it even more because you're both on the same page. Also, it speaks to the point that we all have a past and we all have a
Mm-hmm.
future.
I like that.
Hmm.
Just listening to him is so inspiring every single time that he talks. I just saw him on American Idol a little while ago, and just everything that he says, I just want to soak up. I mean, I want him to move here and be like my kid's mentor because I think that he would kick their butts into shape. No, just he could say the same thing that I say, but for some reason it just works so much better. I don't know why. But the past has already happened, and we can't do anything about it. Like you always say, Tina, things have happened to you, but it is up to you to do something about it. This does
Right?
not just have to do with how people have treated us in the past either. For example, we knew very young that I would not probably graduate high school. My neurologist went through this really long list of things with my brain that would keep from me being able to do a lot of the things that my typical peers were doing. And, you know, for sure, they knew that, a high school graduation was going to be difficult for me, a typical route, but I got a master's degree. So, and then I was told I wouldn't probably be able to ride a bike because of my spatial sense, and I rode a unicycle in a parade.
I
So,
never knew that.
yeah, I can ride even a 6-foot unicycle. It's a fun fact.
That is way cooler than any hidden talent that I might have. I mean, my hidden talent is I can put my whole fist in my mouth, like literally, not figuratively, I hope, but
Don't show us now.
no, no, I won't. You only see that at family vacation talent shows, but I'm just telling you, it's true. What a fun fact. So I do believe you've been able to accomplish all of that because I know you and I know you never quit. There is no quit button
Yeah.
in you at all. I also know what it's like to be told, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that, either
Okay.
because of the way you look or because of the way that
Mm.
something you were born with. So I was born tongue tied. And I was told that I would have serious speech impediments, but I don't. At least I don't think I do. No one's ever mentioned that before. And
I've heard of tongue-tied, but that's like a real thing. That's
well, 40 years ago, I guess it was. Yeah.
okay.
They ended up having to do something to cut my tongue. And I don't know, I can't really remember at this point, but I do have a heart-shaped tongue, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it or if the cutting was all on the underneath it. I really don't know, but I do have a heart-shaped. There's my fun fact. I have a heart-shaped tongue, and I can blow double bubbles. They look like butt cheeks.
Oh
That's the
my
truth.
gosh. Are you
My kids love
serious?
it. I'm dead serious. I don't
With
have
you,
gum in my mouth right now, or I'd show you.
that is so cool.
I very yes, I guess that's my hidden talent. But I say that because even growing up, kids can be mean, particularly in middle school. Those were hard years.
Yeah.
And I had gaps in my teeth. My teeth have always been straight and I've
Mm,
had braces, but I
mm-hmm,
had big gaps in my teeth and I
mm-hmm,
have curly hair, which I love my curly hair. I always have. I think it sets me apart and I believe I was born to stand out. I do. And so people would make fun of me and say, well, you'll never get to do broadcasting. You'll never have a career in that because of the way that you look. And, they'd say all kinds of mean names, but
mm,
all of those things fueled me. When
mm-hmm,
people say that, it fuels me. And I
mm-hmm,
say, okay,
mm-hmm,
watch me. And then I
mm-hmm.
go get it. So much like you, it's like, watch me. I'll do it.
That's exactly how I feel when I
Yep.
hear that I can't do something. So, it didn't even stop there because they told me that I wouldn't be able to hit a ball because my eyes do not converge. It's like this really weird thing. I see two of everything. And
Oh,
fortunately, the brain is really kind. And, the way God made our brains, it just, figures it out. And so my left eye shuts off and I only see one. So, I mean, it's kind of like a miracle. When I get really tired, I start seeing two. If somebody sits in front of my left eye because it's the right eye that works, I like in church or wherever, I'm just like, because
yeah.
because I don't like when somebody blocks my right eye because then it makes me have to look out of my left eye. So it's like a really strange
Okay.
thing. But with that said, I started working in the backyard until I started hitting home runs. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to figure out where this ball is until I start hitting home runs. They told me that I wouldn't be able to drive because I don't have depth perception.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I know it's crazy, but I
Well, look at you. I know you drive.
I do. And just, don't get too close. Just kidding. But 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 I drove and practiced and until, I ended up driving a mail truck for the post office on the opposite side.
Oh my.
So I just always kind of push it a little bit further than even what they told me I wouldn't be able to do. They said that I would be socially awkward, and I became a journalist, and I used my interviewing skills to be able to become an amazing conversationalist to the point that people who just listen to me on here would be like, you're autistic? I mean, that doesn't even make, we don't even see that or hear that. So,
I know I
many,
don't either.
yeah, yeah, you would if you spend enough time with me. But many times in my life, I was the quiet one in the room and even on the verge of selective mutism. I mean, that's what they said. And I let a lot of the abuse from my past hold me back, but I worked so hard that I used it to fuel me forward, kind of like what we're saying here. And I went through treatment where I refused to let chemicals hold me back and dictate my future. And it doesn't. I mean, there is nothing that I let hold me back that dictates my future. I gave my own self a kick in the butt and I decided to help others instead of be that person who needed that help. I got a degree in helping people, and I could go on honestly. What areas in your life, Tina, other than, you're being tongue-tied and some other things? I mean, are there some things that standing out with you that, it was taking you down a certain path and you're like, nope, I'm going to overcome this.
So one of the things that comes to mind, and I don't want to paint a poor picture of my childhood. I had, the first 5 or so years of childhood was a little bit shaky, but my mom remarried, and then I had a
Mm-hmm.
really wonderful dad bring me, help raise me. So my mom is divorced, and then my dad adopted me when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I still refer to him as my dad today, and it was fantastic. Um, one of the things I had to overcome was the feeling of, um, where do I belong? And my dad's side of the family has always made me feel like I'm a part of it, but deep down inside, I know that I didn't come blood related to him. So I don't know. I wrestled with that a bit. But one of the things that actually really stands out is when I was going to college, I commuted for the first year, and I realized that, there was a lot of things happening in life at that time. I have a
Mm,
brother who's 10 years younger, and, my parents were just in different seasons. And I noticed that my happiness was starting to take a tumble. And so I knew that I just needed to get out and go on my own, even if
mm,
that meant taking out, I didn't know it exactly at the time, didn't understand what it meant, but a daily compounding interest rate loan. Whew, let me tell you, that might have cost me a little bit more than I ever would have imagined. But I knew at the time that, my happiness, and I couldn't commute 45 minutes anymore. And just, some things going on in the home weren't
mm,
the way that I wanted it. And so I knew I had to take that leap and just
mhm,
say, you know what, nope, I have to overcome this fear. I need to be on my own, even if it costs me more money than I had initially, hoped or planned for. It's all going to work out. And I did, and it did work out. And so, I've lived on my own since before I was probably, I think I was maybe 19 or 20.
mm.
And it was really a blessing. I think it really helped bring all of us, my family, my mom and me and my dad just closer together. Cause sometimes you need
Okay,
a little distance to appreciate,
true.
each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just always on top of each other. And, a younger sibling, there were just lots of reasons. I didn't always want to be a babysitter, just things like
Mm,
that. So
mhm,
that's something that stood out when you asked that question. I was like, no, my happiness matters, and I need to move out. It's time. You just feel it's time.
mhm, mhm. I mean, it is hard, and some of those decisions are very difficult, but you need to do them. And it's not easy because when you're going to do that tough stuff and you're going to go through and get to the other side, whatever it is, it's not easy. And we're not saying that tough decisions and life and getting through to the other side is easy, because it isn't. I think
Mm-mm.
some of the toughest things I've done is just starting.
This is really funny that you say this because I got to share a story with you about, I'm wondering if that is what my biggest hangup is. So, you know how when you get in a routine and you're in the routine, so it's easy to stay with it, but then something derails you. Let's say you got really sick. This is actually my story. So, I got really sick with pneumonia in January and I
Mm,
just fell off track. I was doing so good with, still exercising, working out, doing the meal
mhm.
plans. And then you get sick for a month straight and all of that falls off. And here I am, having gained some more weight. And I don't know if I've, shared this. I was in the best shape of my life last year because I was hiking that incredible trail. But I a couple weeks ago, I mean, I can feel that I've put weight back on. So a couple weeks ago, I was taking care of my mom and I got on the scale and I wish I wouldn't have. And I didn't like the number I saw also because I don't like how I feel. And so I've been reading the book Atomic Habits. And it talked about if you have a habit, a new one that you want to start, there's only so much time in a day and maybe you can find a way to incorporate it into something else you're already doing. So I was like, man, I feel totally inspired and I'm going to lose weight. This will be easy. Piece of cake. I'm going to go home. I'm going to buy a treadmill and I'm going to be able to use it like the walking pad treadmill, one of the smaller ones. And I'm going to be able to use it as I'm prepping for work in the morning. I'm like, this will be great. I've got 25 minutes before I go on air for the day for my day job. And I am just going to be able to do it and burn calories bright and early first thing in the morning, right? Wrong. Guess what? I have
What?
had the treadmill here for this is the third week. And it's actually really beautiful sitting up against the wall the whole time. I just want to say it makes a really nice piece of art decoration or something. I won't use it. I've not even plugged it in. I don't even know if it works. I spent all the money on it. I had this plan and I will not start it. And I'm trying to figure out why. So, back to my 3 hour counseling session yesterday, I was posing this question. And I've noticed it's a trend with me. And I've noticed that my counselor said, I think part of it is your personality. One, you're a perfectionist, and two, you're a procrastinator. I said, yep, both of those things are true. Although I'd probably say I'm more of a procrastinator than a perfectionist, probably. So I've often just thought, you just got to get started and stick with it. And
Mhm.
she said, why was it so successful for you to do your training for your trip? And I said, because I had to. I had something I knew I was
Okay,
training for.
you had a goal.
And I had a goal. And I didn't want to let myself down or my family. And she said, well, I wonder if the fear of failure plays any part in why you're not starting, this workout if you want.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's the fear of failure as much as it is that I don't like to exercise. I've never had a weight problem until having children.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I only have 15 pounds to lose. And I just do the math and I'm like, it'll take about 6, 7, 8 weeks to lose that. And I don't know. I watched the Chris Hemsworth series Limitless. I know that the 40s is a
Mhm.
pivotal decade. Why am I not eating my best when I had fully planned to last year? Why am I not exercising or doing some form of, exercise every other day or it's something? I mean, and there are a lot of factors. I think what it really boils down to for me, and I'm sure for a lot of us, is I feel overwhelmed. It is the end of a school year. I have one kid that's going to be transitioning to middle school, and I'm struggling with that. Time is going by too fast. I do have a lot on my plate with my mom, with home life, with baseball, all the things, and, like so many do. And I'm not someone that can have 100 things on my plate. I really need to focus on the most important ones. And somehow, as important as this whole exercise thing should be, I would rather do it outside, walk around the block, or go, I guess I hate running, but I guess go for a run outside, but I can't get my kids to comply. I don't know. So I'm just in this weird space and I know that I need to just get started. So when you say that, I'm like, yes. So I don't know if to get started, I need a reward. Okay, hey, if you do this for 2 weeks, you get to buy yourself a Michael Kors purse. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. in case
You
my
get to buy
husband's
yourself an
listening.
ice cream. Just
Yeah, I
kidding.
won't do it for that. I'll just eat the ice cream, but something bigger. Or if I need to have another goal, like, hey, I want to hike this place, and that will get me in gear. I can't figure out fully what my problem is. I just want to get on the stinking treadmill.
What if you choose a different time of day? That you're, first thing in the morning, you're on the radio, you got to get going and all this stuff, but maybe that's just not something that you can do before you go on there. I mean,
Right.
maybe you could make it another time during the day.
I think I need to just sit down and write all of this out for me and figure out what is my problem? Why can I not just get started? A funny thing is, I almost feel like I'm waiting for someone to shame me so that I'll feel embarrassed. Isn't that dumb? And then I'll want to do it. I mean, I actually think last week that someone mistaken me for a grandmother of my son, my 3-year-old. But I don't look that old. I mean, I've got some gray hairs. I'm just being honest. I do. I've got more than my mother, but I don't think I look that old. But I swear she said, yeah, us grandmas, we got to stick together. And it was just me and her at the chiropractic office. And I was like, us grandma? I'm like, I don't see any other grandma. Is she talking to me? Is it because of my gray hair? No.
Oh
Anyway, I love
my,
that you said that the toughest thing, it truly is just getting started. I think if I would
it
just
really
start,
is.
I would be fine.
You know, I
This
always
is
watch,
allergies,
I
listeners. I'm
always
sorry. I
watch,
just got to tell you that.
when I get the chance, I try to watch Hoda and Jenna. And it's a really fun show that talks to us women, I guess. But anyway, Hoda did the exact same thing. Just yesterday, she had been telling herself for weeks and weeks and weeks that she needed to get up and work out. And she covered a story or heard a story of like this 80-some-year-old person and what they were doing
Hmm.
with their workout routine
Yes.
and everything. And then she's like, that's it. And she got up, she did it, and I don't know if she did it today too, but sometimes it is just making yourself just do it that first time, second time, third, and eventually it does become the regular practice in your life.
Apparently, I lack some self-discipline, that's for sure. Because
Well,
I like the cupcakes and the sweets, but I don't want to have to do anything to work it off.
I
I
can
mean, I feel
also,
like that's not asking too much, but yet it is.
okay, you also have the perspective of just hitting 40. It's a little
Yeah,
different than when you're 45, when you're 48, and you're going, oh crap, you know what? It's 48 now, and I'm heading towards 50. You start getting a little bit more serious. So you're just at the very beginning of your 40s. So I don't think that it's really set into you, this mindset of being in your 40s yet.
probably true. And I certainly don't act like it. So that might be the other contributing factor. I
Yeah,
want to be young because I do feel young,
well,
except
you don't
for,
have to act old just because
I
if
know
you are, a number is
that's
a
true.
number. That's it.
That's true. I know that you do some check ins with yourself, don't you? I mean, I'm kind of checking in with myself. I'm
Yeah,
taking the time to figure out why.
like what we're talking about here, I mean, if I'm in the same place, I know where I want to be. Okay.
Mhm.
If I'm in the same place and, if than I was 6 months ago or even 3 months ago or something, I really start trying to ask myself why. You know, I want to be in a different place than I am now. So why am I in the same place that I was a few months ago? So changing is an action. It's a verb. It's
Mhm.
not just thinking about it.
Yeah, apparently I don't have any good advice on this topic because I've got to figure out how to make action a verb in my life, especially in this area.
When I knew, and I did know as a child that I was different, I wondered why everyone else in the class understood the words on the page, but I didn't. I wondered why I wanted to hide whenever the teacher would call names, and I would be the one like, please don't call on me, please don't call on me. I was dyslexic and ADHD and autistic, and, I had A to Z, you name it, I had it. So, I just wanted to hide. But you know what? They told me I couldn't But you know what? Like we said, I said, you watch me. And without anybody teaching me, I got a tape recorder. I read into it. I would listen to it. I would write down what I heard. And then I would condense it to the point where I could just, I could personally understand, retain it enough to be able to use it in the classroom or however I needed to. And it became so ingrained in me doing this that I realized that if I listen, I hear, I read, I do all the things, I'm much better at being able to retain it. And I taught my brain how to learn. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Amazing.
I
That's
know.
more than more than cool. And so, what's interesting is look how hard you had to work and where you are
Right.
now because of it.
Yeah.
And that's so inspiring. And at the same time, for someone like me or my personality or whatever my brain feels, I'm like, that is so overwhelming. I don't know. I mean, I don't ever give up. So maybe I would do the same
Mm-hmm.
thing, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. That is so much work. And you like all the things you say, it's like I'm in disbelief. I almost want to see, let me see the charts. Let me see the stuff that these doctors said, because none of that is true about you at all. You're just simply amazing.
I'll accept that. But no, just no, you know, I still have the difficulties. Those things were true. I still it takes me many, many times over to read a page, understand a page. Sometimes I still have to do some of those same things. But, I figured it out. And that's the point. I can remember when I first learned the unicycle. I got this thing when I was like 12 years old, and I have no idea why I wanted to learn it, but I did. I wanted to learn how to ride this thing. And I would go out on my back deck and, holding on to the walls, and I would fall and fall for hours until I got to where I was riding to my friends' houses on a unicycle instead of on a bike. So that was so funny. And I can remember in swimming, and when we would practice 4 hours a day, 2 days a week, dry land, and I was just this really determined kid. I mean, I have the makeup of somebody who wants to win. I often talk about the thing that made me stop winning. I've talked about when my dad passed away and how then I made that association with death and loss and winning. And I had other things happen, like my aunt had died, who I really liked. And it was my graduation, and all of my family had to go to her funeral instead of my graduation. And so, those things kind of just kept making associations with me. And time after time, it just kind of changed me. I was getting married, and my biological brother was supposed to walk me down the aisle because I didn't have a dad to walk me down the aisle, and my biological mom would not let him do that. So they wouldn't even come. So then I ended up asking my adopted mom to walk me down the aisle last second. But that's just kind of the way things have gone. And I just keep saying, you know what? I'm just going to keep moving forward. And it
Mhm.
reminds me of that Thomas Edison quote: I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that it didn't work. And when he was talking about inventing the light bulb, he did fail thousands and thousands of times before he figured out how it would work. And that's just life.
That is life. And I think it should be an inspiration to anyone listening, and something we can tell all of our athletes and everyone who's
Yeah,
striving to create and make and just be the best of themselves to create something really amazing. I always say mistakes mean that you're learning. And so I had this great
yeah,
conversation with my middle child last night, and how I'm not upset when you make mistakes. You need to learn from them, though. And that's kind of what they mean.
hmm
They mean you're learning. So don't give up. You can't just throw in the towel because it didn't work the first time. If
or the
everything worked the
50th.
first time, yeah, it would be easy. And the whole thing is to grow your brain, because not everything should be easy. I mean, if you're in first grade, you shouldn't know division. You're not expected to
Right.
just see the numbers and know how to do it. So, I really love that, because you could fail so many times. Or I'll give you an example of one of my favorite shows is American Idol, which is really funny because I've not watched it at all this season.
Oh,
And it's
it's
the
the
first season
best.
I've missed
It's
since
the
its
best.
inception. I'm so sad I'm missing it. What are they down
Mm,
to? Is it top 12? Are we past that
five,
already?
top
Oh, it's
five.
down to five. I can't believe it. And I think it's Katy Perry's last time
It
being a
is
judge.
for
And I
right
really
now.
like her.
Yeah,
I
she
really
said
like
keep my
her.
seat warm to the person coming in, so maybe she's coming back. I don't know.
Okay. Well, the initial host for the first year thought this isn't going to do a whole lot. He thought it was going to tank, or maybe reviews said it wasn't going to be anything. And
Mm-hmm.
Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Seacrest took it over after that. It was
Mm-hmm.
after a
Mm-hmm.
season or two. And I mean, look, it's been going on for, I don't even know, 30 seasons, something like that. And so it
Great.
just
I
goes to
know.
show, don't give up. Maybe something's not for someone, but or someone else, but it just might be for you.
Right. It also goes for your brain too. I was just thinking about how much effort it takes for your brain to carve a new path and how you have to
Mm-hmm.
do it so many times before you actually have to create a new thought process, a new thought path. And so nothing. I mean, I don't think that when God was making us, he was thinking, I'm just going to make this so easy for them. He
Yeah, he
didn't.
certainly didn't do
He,
that.
he really, I don't know, but he gave us all the tools. He gave us all the abilities to be able to figure it out. So, I mean, that's the cool part of it. The other part of that Thomas Edison thing, and I absolutely love this story, and maybe a lot of people don't know this, but this is really a fact. You know, um, when after he got done making this functioning light bulb, and he had worked so hard, I'm talking thousands of hours that he put into this, and he finally found the right way to make this first functioning light bulb. And he had it in his hands and he gave it to this young man. It was actually a boy who was working in the workshop. He gave it to him and he went up the stairs to take it up to the other part of the workshop and he dropped it. He dropped
Mm.
it. And so Edison, he did not shame him. He did not blame him. He didn't do all the things. He didn't say, nope, you lost your chance. You're out of here, kid. Um, he made another one. He spent another 24 hours in the workshop. He put it together. He made it again. And then he ended up giving that light bulb to that same kid and gave him another chance. And this time he did it. But I absolutely love that because
Me too.
I mean, how many times would people just write somebody off like that over some? I mean, that was a really major thing. But he's like, nope, I'm going to give you this second chance because I believe in you. When just imagine how that kid felt when he put that light bulb back in his hands.
It was probably a life-changing moment for that kid who felt so bad, I assume, after dropping it, but then was like, wait, he believes in me this much that he gave me another chance. I mean, that's a good
Right?
life lesson right there.
I think so too. And he didn't make him feel bad at all. I mean, he just went, okay, we'll make another one. Gave it
Yeah.
to him. I mean, there is so much in that story. It's one of my favorite stories. So one of my favorite books, and I have read it cover to cover, is Uncommon Friends. And it is a story of Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Harvey Firestone, Alexis Carrel, if I'm saying that right, and Charles Lindbergh. Could you imagine them being friends, being in a room with them? This book is just so powerful. And, there was no other time in history that brought us to where we are now. I really believe that. I mean, these men forged that path that no one else had traveled, and they brought us everything from cars to a way to play music to the light bulb to flying. And if you ever want to think of taking nothing and making something or trying to figure out a way to go through when it seems impossible, read this book, Uncommon Friends, because it taught me so much and it made me want to conquer the world. And it made me it is thought that maybe Edison was autistic, but also he was deaf in both ears almost completely from scarlet fever as a kid, but he believed he had purpose and he didn't give up. So he believed he had purpose. I mean, that is so cool. And Einstein did not talk until he was 4, which is a sign of autism, and didn't understand what was going on in the classroom a lot of the time. So he was thought to have actually even been dyslexic. So I bet that he was autistic. I just have a feeling. So the point is, nothing can hold you back. And there are going to be so many things that are hurdles or they seem very difficult, seem hard, but you can do it. But it takes action, like I said, and it takes more than just thinking about it. You have to do something no matter how hard. And I'm also thinking about not only did he give that kid a chance, but just imagine if you did that to yourself. Just imagine if you just said, okay, well, I worked so hard on this project and it's all tanked. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna do it again, and I'm not gonna shame myself and blame myself, and we're just gonna make it work and just keep moving through.
Boy, if we could be nicer to ourselves, those of us who like to punish ourselves, wouldn't that be something?
I know, right?
You talk about inspirational books, and the one that did it for me is called Love Does by Bob Goff. My favorite author, one of the only other podcasts that I get a chance to listen to or make time to listen to. And
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much because it just talks about every chapter is unique, but it really just talks about honing in on love and how we can love others. And one of my favorite stories in there was how he was eating out at a, seaside or lakeside restaurant, wherever he has his boat. And someone, he was talking to this younger server, and over a period of time, the server said, I really want to propose to my girlfriend on a boat. And Bob was like, well, I have a boat. And he's like, well, can I use your boat? He was like, well, yeah, because he wanted to be a part of something. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's so important.
Yeah.
My two older sons are very different in how they play sports. My oldest is in it to win it, could play every single day, very competitive, very talented, gifted athlete and teammate. And that's super important. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that about him. My middle son is more like Bob Goff. He would just, I just want to be a part of it. So because his best buddy's playing, he's playing baseball. And for
Mm-hmm.
him, this was so funny. He struck out his one at bat. He hit a
Mm-hmm.
double,
Mm-hmm.
another at bat, and he caught a fly ball. And you know what? It was all the same to him. He just didn't bother him that he struck out. He wasn't jumping up and down that he caught a ball or hit a double. He was just very in the zone, if you will, but
Mm-hmm.
just happy to be a part of it. So I think sometimes we need to dig and look at ourselves and see kind of what our personality is. And do we just need to be a part of something, or do we need to really work hard to overcome this? Or I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, but I think there's so much good in what you said, so much good in the Einstein story and in the book Love Does. I can't recommend it enough. It's such a great book. Bob Goff is a fun writer, and it'll definitely inspire you to do something. Like, also, one of my favorite things he did, and I've heard a lot of people who've read this book say that this is their favorite story in the book because each chapter is just its own little story.
Oh,
And
cool.
I've heard a lot of people say that they wish they could do what he did. He made a key to his house, real copies of his keys, and he sent them to every leader around the world because that's what his son or daughter, I can't remember, wanted to do for something she just said she wanted to do in school, just to give them a break, to, if these world leaders just needed a break, somewhere safe to go. And so they sent these keys to every single world leader, and they actually got some hits. People actually came and stayed at their house, and it's such a fantastic
Oh
story.
my
And
gosh.
they have a children's version of this book, so we own both copies, and it was fantastic. It's the first book I made my son read this year, to be honest with you, my oldest, because it was so, so good. And it will just inspire you to see things differently, to not give up, and to just love,
I'm
because
gonna have to
love,
look this up.
yes, love, like we talk about change is a verb, love is a verb. And that's what he talks
Oh,
about in the book.
absolutely. One of the things that I do is make a storyboard for
Mm,
a map. And I want to accomplish. If I want something done, maybe some people don't believe in this, but I do believe in manifesting. I
mm.
And the reason why I do is because if you want it to happen, you have to make it happen. And so, I just think it and I think it and then I do it and I believe that it's going to happen and then you can manifest it.
I believe that there's power in positive thinking. I'm still thinking about, and I keep asking everybody I know, do you have a money tree? Like, can you give me some of those seeds? Does anybody have a money tree? I haven't manifested that yet, but I'll tell you what, there is definitely power in what you think. So what you
Oh,
choose to think
100%.
can come true, whether negative or positive. I absolutely think that because you start believing what you think. The thoughts become your words become your actions become, I guess, who you are, if that's the next part of it. So, oh, I believe in that too.
Just think about this Edison quote. I was always afraid of things that worked the first time.
Hmm. I'm gonna ponder that.
I know, isn't that cool?
Yeah,
It
that is
really,
really cool.
I
Hmm.
know, because you always have to work through it to make it its best. I mean, don't you think? I mean,
That's true. Maybe
yeah.
that's why pencils have erasers. I don't know. That's a fun that's just a fun thing to think about. I don't think I've never thought about that.
Yeah, and he said it. So
Good
it
food for
made
thought.
yeah, it really was. Or this quote by George Allen, no matter who you are or what your position is, you must keep fighting for whatever it is you desire to achieve. And
That's
I
a good
love
one
that.
too. I would say to all the people pleasers listening, that's probably one that you need to hear because there is no pleasing everyone. And in fact, you're probably, if that's who you are, you're probably only hurting yourself the most.
Mhm. You want to
It
take
was
the last
so
one
good.
or
Yes. The greatest fight is when you are fighting in the smoke and cannot see with your eyes. Mark Helprin.
isn't that
Hmm,
good?
that's a good one
I
too.
mean, you can't even see sometimes maybe what your next step is or what you're supposed to do. But if you just keep moving, it will eventually get done. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in my life, and that's why, and we've talked about this, I have said to myself, just trust the process, trust the
Hmm.
process, and just keep going. I'll tell you, when we were doing the adoption, everything possible stood in our way. And I was just like, and I didn't do anything to make it happen. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
I didn't allow it to just say, you know what, okay, I'm done. We're just not going to do it. I just waited, just kept doing what I was supposed to be doing. And then the doors just kept opening and it did happen. So, I mean, there were blocks and blocks and blocks, but I did nothing about those. I just kept doing what this list of things that I had that I was supposed to be doing to adopt, and it just happened. And none of those other things actually stood, and I just kept going, and it worked.
Well, I got to tell you that now I feel like I need to go get a run in around the block or at least a walk or two. So I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start. You've inspired me. I feel like now that I've said it, I really have to do it so that we can follow up next week. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. It has been a joy to chat with you today.
I wanted to come on here to talk a little bit, like sometimes I do. And one of the reasons I wanted to was because quotes have gotten me through reading Uncommon Friends, you know, just being soaked up by other people's wisdom has really got me through. I mean, one of my biggest quotes that I have a huge picture of a swimmer because I used to be a swimmer, and across it, it just says victory. I mean, you know, I used to spend in the worst time of my life. I used to spend, and this is going to make me cry. I don't know why that happened. This, you know, in one of the worst times of my life. And it's just because I'm thinking of that time of my life. That's why I'm crying. I spent, I can't even tell you how many hours reading quotes, filling my soul with other people's words because my words were really hurting me. And so I didn't want to hear me. I didn't want to hear my thoughts. So I sat there and I would read and read and read, and I would just take in all these other influences in my life. Oh, influences. What a word. I mean, there's a difference between being somebody who's influential and somebody who's just being power driven. And those are two completely different people. And we're going to actually talk about that in an episode coming up pretty soon. But one of the quotes that Thomas Edison said that has really touched me is our greatest weakness lies in giving up. You know, some of the absolute worst times in my life, there was nothing in front of me to make me keep going. There was nothing. I mean, everything looked as if there was no reason to keep going. I have never once had that thought, though. I have never once allowed my mind to even go in a direction of not doing it, of not making it, of not trying to be my best self. That was not even, I mean, okay, I guess I have like that Thomas Edison mentality where it's just whatever it takes. It doesn't matter. I am going to find my way out of this ditch. And it was a lot more than a ditch. It was a freaking cave dug way under the ground, and there was no sign of light. There was no way out, it felt like. And the rest of that quote is the most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. Just one more time. There's always another one more time in you. And if you think to yourself and you look at the big picture and you just think, oh my gosh, there's just no way I can do that. There's like 50,000 steps ahead of me. Nobody's asking you to look at the picture in that way, but you can look at it in a way where you just say, you know what, I can do this one more time. Just one more step, just one more. And if you just visualize the first step and that's all that you do and that's all that you focus on, then it's attainable. It is attainable. I am telling you, none of those stories that I told in this episode are false. Every single one of them is an accurate depiction of my brain and I didn't even go into like some of the biggest hurdles that I had to overcome. Now, yes, the disabilities was absolutely huge, huge. And I can't tell you how many kids I know today who are autistic or dyslexic. And there are so many hurdles in front of them. I have 3 kids that live with me that have these same hurdles. And it's like I watch them and it is so difficult for them. You know what's hard for me is watching their typical peers just being, just don't have the same struggles. They just go out there and they laugh and they have fun. And then I watch my kids struggle so hard to figure it out. My one son right now, I've been figuring out what's going on with him, I believe. I believe he's angry and he's lashing out at everybody and everything right now. I started figuring this out recently when we were at his baseball game for kids with special needs. And he used to be this really happy kid and he loved it. But now to get him to go and to have fun is just, he's just angry. And so I'm going to have to really hone in on that this summer and try to help him understand. Um, he's kind of lost some choices along the way because of some choices that he's made. And because of that, he has found himself in a place he doesn't like. And I understand his anger. So now we have to start there and we have to build from there. And this comes down to what we're talking about here. If you want different, you have to do different. And if you're in the same spot, then you were a few months ago or 6 months ago or whatever. I mean, why are you? And you have to figure out, why are you? You have to act. You have to move. I'll tell you, I would love to do it for him because I've figured it out. I was in his spot when I was a kid and I figured it out and how to get here, but it took 50 billion times of messing up and going in the wrong directions before I figured it out. And mistakes are learning opportunities. And that's the way you have to look at it. It's not the absolute worst situation that you can be in. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that somebody's treating you absolutely awful, that you're living in the worst, absolute horrendous situation that you can imagine. I don't know if you've earned a spot in jail for a period of time or, health or whatever it is. I can tell you right now, if you can want to be the best self that you can be in the situation that you're in right now, it is up to you. It's up to you. I know somebody personally in my life who continuously chooses to go, and this is that little analogy or, that little saying of, if you go down the same road and you just keep falling in that same hole, I mean, you have nobody to blame but yourself if you keep going down that same road and falling in that same hole. I mean, I did that. I did it and I did it and I did it. And I couldn't figure out, why am I not growing? Why am I not getting out of this? Why am I, you know, grace is a really big thing. One of the things that I loved in this episode was listening to what Thomas Edison did to that young man, not just for that young man, but when I turned it in the episode and I said, what if we did that for ourselves? What if we gave that same kind of grace to ourselves and allowed ourselves not to be so hard on us in order to just say, oh, well, I goofed up. I goofed up. Oh, well, I'm in this really horrendous situation and I need to start acting. I need to start moving forward. We had this saying in the jails, and because I can remember one little study we were having, we were all sitting in a circle. There was a bunch of women sitting with me. And one of the women who was in the jail, she said, I don't know. I mean, doing, she said, I've been praying and praying and praying, and God just doesn't do this for me. And I'm just like, what did you just say? And so it's about, okay, if you're a God fearing person, if you're somebody who believes in God and you just keep praying and praying and praying, but you're not doing anything, God's willing to meet us halfway. He is absolutely willing to drop some miracles and favors from the sky. I really believe in that because I have personally had those things happen to me, but it was because of my own hard work as well. I had to do some really hard things to get out, to move on. And I would still be that person who was living in that basement with those absolutely horrible people getting abused in the absolute worst way if I didn't figure out how to get out. Lifelines. I'm telling you, they're being thrown to you all the time, and you have to take them because if you don't take them, you're going to be sitting there going, why in the world am I not getting out? But I've had a lifeline. I've had a lifeline. Maybe somebody has offered you something. Maybe somebody has shown you a different path, and you just are continuously saying and using excuses and as to why you just can't get out of whatever the situation is. And again, it takes one step at a time. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and it looks like work. Well, guess what? Thomas Edison said that. And you know what? It is work. It is work. But opportunity is opportunity. And you have to, every single time that door opens, if you don't walk through it, that's a missed opportunity. And that is absolutely the way that I have viewed life. If we did all the things that we are capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. You would astound yourself. Thomas Edison said that too. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. And I know that for a fact because I spent time giving up during times of my life where I absolutely should not have given up. And I did, and I missed an opportunity. And I could have been so much further along in life than I am right now. But there's catch up. And I did catch up to where I was supposed to be in life. I have to believe that. This quote, I'm sure that everybody has heard this Thomas Edison quote, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And I mean, you can think all day long what you want to do. You can think it, think it, think it. Oh, I'm going to be this and I'm going to do this. But it really is just 1% of what getting there is. The rest is all you, man. It is all you. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. Ugh, means a lot. Talk to you soon.